So, Jerry, hi. Thank you so much for being with us today. So, you always have so many things going on, and lots
That's
of
true.
right.
That's true.
So dynamic. You live such a dynamic life. What is going on recently in your life right now?
Well, I'm very involved in the NCAA tournament right now, following certain players that I think are potential players for the draft for the 76ers, which is kind of a different twist for me, obviously. For 45 years when I said Suns, this time it's the Sixers in my capacity as chairman of basketball operations. That's been a big part of my time. Also preparation for the Olympics in Rio this summer. We're monitoring all of our players. You know, things change on a day-to-day basis. We lost one of our players yesterday, Anthony Davis, who was our starting center on that team. He's going to have 2 surgeries this off season, and they shut him down yesterday. So, you know, you don't know what each day is going to bring, and you have to be prepared for all of it. And as you relate to my life, I like the fact that I have so much on the table that I can't get bored.
Right.
You know, there's so many different things I'm involved in, you know, Grand Canyon, the Hall of Fame, USA Basketball, the real estate business, the 76ers, and I've been blessed with a full life, and I'm just kind of enjoying the journey.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the 76ers, because you got the call early December, I think it was, that they wanted you to come over and be the chairman.
Right.
And basically, I think they're looking at you as the game changer. They want you to turn everything around. So, how's it going?
Well, we're getting through the season. You know, my whole thought here is there's not much you could do with halfway through the season.
Correct.
And you don't want to give away your future, even if you did acquire a couple of players. So all of this has been a time of planning about off-season. What takes place when the season's over? You prepare for the draft. This is true for every team, by the way. So this same discussion is taking place down the street with the Suns.
Yeah.
Preparation for the draft, looking at free agency, re-signing people. The good news is 76ers have a lot of assets. They've accumulated a lot of draft picks.
Okay.
And therefore, you know, my advice, my mentoring with the people in place is to try to be strategic as to how we use those assets and when to pull the trigger, because we need to have a big improvement, and that's my goal and objective.
Which is one of the reasons why you're watching March Madness so closely right now. One of many reasons, I'm sure. By the way, who do you have winning in your bracket?
I do not get involved with brackets. I have too many friends in basketball that, fortunately, a number of them are still in, and I'm pleased about that. I was with Coach K up in Providence this past weekend to see his win, and he's back in the Sweet 16. And Jimmy Boeheim, one of my assistant coaches on the Olympic team with Syracuse, is still playing, and he made a call to our people just to be reminded which Italian restaurants in Chicago he should go to, because he knows when I'm with him in Chicago, we go to some nice restaurants.
Because you're from Chicago, right?
Right.
And let's see, you came to the Valley, I think it was back in 68?
1968, and it was a different valley at that time. It
was much smaller.
Yeah, a lot. 750,000 maybe in the entire valley. And, you know, that was something that appealed to me back then, because I had some other options in terms of my future. I chose Phoenix because I saw kind of a blank slate where anything I might do or choose to do or attempt to do would be done for the first time. And
because
so
you came with the expansion team, the Suns at the time.
Right. I was part of the Chicago Bulls startup 2 years earlier in 1966 when Chicago was awarded a team, and I was a young guy, got the opportunity, didn't know I was in a growth industry which was about to explode, and that was the NBA. Chicago was the first expansion team of the modern era. That was the 10th team. The next year they added Seattle and San Diego, and then Phoenix, Milwaukee.
All right.
And so I had the Milwaukee GM job offered to me, then the Phoenix GM job, and my boss in Chicago with the Bulls didn't want me to leave.
I can imagine not.
And part of me didn't want to leave. I was happy in Chicago, that's home, and
Right.
but once I saw Phoenix, and once I left Chicago, I tell the story, it was 20 below zero at O'Hare. I landed at Terminal 1, I smelled orange blossoms for the first time, and by the end of the day, I was being pressured to say, yes, we want you, and here's what we're prepared to do. And I said, being a little street educated, I said, I can't make that decision. I'm going to go home, discuss it with my wife.
Smart.
I'll get back to you in a couple days. I excused myself. I got to a phone. This is before cell phones. I called my wife and I said, pack your bags, babe, it's Phoenix. And 2 weeks later, we were here.
Well, geez, 20 below versus the beautiful weather here.
74 on that day when I arrived.
I mean, who would turn that down, right?
Well, I'm not sure. I certainly wasn't
didn't.
going to be the one who would.
How'd
So-
your wife react to that? Did she like it?
Well, it's interesting. When I got the offer from Milwaukee, she says, it would have been nice had it been Phoenix. And then 2 days later, that happened.
So perfect.
So it happened the way it was supposed to.
So you come here to the Valley, 68. Suns was the expansion team. It had to ramp up, and then in the 80s, the 90s, things were going pretty well. You were often up against the Lakers with some very competitive games, some competitive seasons. The 76ers, back in that time frame, they were pretty successful too.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever think that we would be here now talking about these three teams that are really at the bottom? The Suns were 19 and 51 now. Hardly anybody seems to care about the Suns right now in Arizona. The Lakers are doing worse than that. And then the 76ers, which is why they pulled you in. What do you think about the fact that the shift in the NBA and how those powerhouses are now towards the bottom?
Well, it goes in cycles. It really does in professional sports. And in the NBA, only 2 or 3 players can turn your fortunes around. But when you have a long run, and with all the success that the Suns had during all those years that I was involved with the Suns from the very beginning,
Yes.
giving birth to them until even beyond the sale of the Suns in '04 to Robert Sarver, I was still hanging around, in a capacity. Phoenix has the 4th best record in the history of the NBA.
Oh, wow.
Well, just that in itself, that kind of longevity
Yes.
says an awful lot. And only a handful of seasons when we didn't make the playoffs. So the test of time said this was one of the most successful franchises in NBA history, with one exception. We didn't win a championship,
That's true.
but we knocked on the door and should have won 3 times, maybe 4 times. And I won't go into detail as to why we didn't, but it wasn't meant to be. The irony in my life is, of course, giving birth to the D-backs in baseball, and that we win a World Series in our 4th year, the fastest ever in the
It's
history.
very exciting, by the way.
Yeah, it was like the fastest ever in the history of the game, and don't think that wasn't lost on me. The irony of God has a funny sense of humor. That's all I could say.
Well, you talk about the longevity and how the Suns have one of the best records when it comes to that. The common denominator seemed to have been you.
Well, I was there, and we built a great organization. We had good people. We tried to do things right. Well, one of the things that I instinctively understood when I came here is that in a press conference a few days after I was announced, I said, this community owes us nothing. It's up to us to earn the respect and support of the community by how we conduct ourselves, not only on the court, but off the court, in the community. What do we do in terms of giving back? How are we going to be a part of the fabric? And so that was really who the Suns were, as you know, for decades. And so I was proud of that as much as anything else.
And that is definitely something to be proud of. During your time with the Suns, I think it was back in '92, you brought someone who now calls the Valley his home, to the Suns, and that was Charles Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
And he came over from the 76ers.
He did. Similar irony, I
Yeah,
guess,
right? And I know that, with any job, with any employer, employee, you're always going to butt heads every once in a while. And Charles isn't exactly a quiet guy. He states his opinion. I'm wondering, since now you're at the helm of the 76ers, has he reached out to you and given you any advice?
No, he hasn't. Not since then. But, as you know, Charles was brought here because the only thing we were lacking was a banner. And, we let him know that after the trade, that was the first year of the new arena. Westfall was the new coach. We were sold out for the upcoming season.
Super exciting time.
We had a list of 5,000 people on the season ticket list with deposit money down. So he was told, Charles, you don't need to sell a ticket. We just need a banner. That's all we're looking for. And so it didn't happen. We fell short, again, unfortunately. And then we parted company. Charles was traded. And there may have been some hurt feelings on his part at the time. But things come around. And as evidence, when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he asked me to sponsor him because each Hall of Famer inductee needs to have a Hall of Famer be standing alongside of him for that purpose. And, that kind of buried everything, I think, at the time.
What an honor, what a compliment.
Well, I've done that a few times for a few inductees, and I take it as that.
Another compliment that I think to you and that I also want to reiterate is the Summer Olympics are coming up, and you are really the power that be, is what I call it, the captain of USA basketball. You make Phoenix so proud, Arizona so proud, that you are so involved in so many things, including the Olympics, and we've brought home a gold medal before. You're going to be there again, helping us create that team, and I know that the Valley is very proud of you for that.
Appreciate that. Actually, we've won 4 gold medals. We've won...
of course, I'm thinking about
the World Cup, the World Championships, the Olympics in 08 in Beijing, and then 12 in London. And, the story is back in 04, when I sold the Suns, I stepped down from the Diamondbacks. I went into the Basketball Hall of Fame. I had prostate cancer. It was a pretty traumatic year.
A very busy year.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
And then in early 05, when I was recuperating at home, I received a call and was asked if I would take over USA Basketball, and my instinctive reaction was, I'll do it, but I have a couple of conditions. One
what
was
were those?
Full autonomy, where I would pick the coaches and the players. I thought previously there was too much politics involved in the selection process. And then secondly, I needed the ability to do it my way, which was in a first-class manner. And therefore, I didn't want to be, handcuffed with a budget.
Right.
And once I got that, I said, I reassured everyone, don't worry, I'll raise the money, but I wanted the commitment on the front end. So we sold all the sponsorships, we quadrupled our revenues leading up to Beijing, and kind of the rest is history. We've got an incredible run. My attitude about the Olympics is this: when you can represent your country on the international stage, it's a whole different world than what's happening in your city, your community, even in your country. But representing your country was a great platform, and I accepted that challenge. I like challenges. That's just the way I'm built, and bringing in Coach K as my coach, and then meeting with players one-on-one and explaining why I was doing it. People said, why would you want to do something, take that on? There's more downside risk than positive. I never think of that. I just think about a job that needs to be done, let's go do it, and we'll get it done. When people say, you can't do that, my reaction has always been, I can, I will, and I'll show you how. Does that mean I've won all the time? No, but I've won more than I've lost, I know that.
I like how you said that you would sit down with the players and you'd have that conversation Because I think most of us, when we think about the Olympics and being an Olympian, we think, wow, what an incredible honor. That would just be amazing. But I imagine that there's some that have so much fame, or I wouldn't say fortune, but so much attention that they might think of the Olympics in a different way. And maybe having that conversation with the younger Olympians, like basketball players, they get it.
Right. Well, here's the circumstances at that moment is that we had lost in the Olympics in Athens in '04. We finished third. But it was more than just losing. It was what they looked like, what they said. I mean, it was a bad scene. And
It wasn't
an
first
embarrassing.
class,
It wasn't.
like you brought
It
up.
wasn't at all. So, when I took the helm, I said, we need to change the culture. We need to show the world basketball community respect in order to earn it back. And so there was a real cultural thing that needed to take place. And then I needed buy-in from the players, because many players didn't care about
Right.
playing at that time.
Right.
Once I was able to visit eyeball to eyeball, one-on-one with the Kobes and the LeBrons and Wade and all of them, they all bought in. They all wanted to be part of a plan. And I did say to them, if you buy in, it'll be one of the great experiences of your life. And so today, as I look back, our system is running at full throttle. It's not just the 31 players on our national team roster, from which we need to pick 12,
Right.
but all the junior teams that represent the United States in international competition, men and women, boys and girls, they're all gold medalists. They all want to be part of this. And so I'm proud of that the program is as strong now as it is, and it didn't take that long to turn it.
It just took the right person.
Well, I appreciate that, but it takes people. No one person is ever responsible for success in any endeavor, in my opinion. And again, we put together a good team of people. We got players to buy in, and I'll tell you, it's been a great thing. And I'll share this with you. In Beijing, when the gold medals were being distributed,
Which I definitely remember.
and excuse me, and the Star Spangled Banner was being played, I was thinking at that moment, I had a dream, I had a passion, I had something I wanted to see executed, and at that moment, it all came to fruition. So that was a great moment.
Ooh, that just gave me goosebumps. Because I could only imagine how you felt at that time, at that moment. I remember seeing it, watching it, and just how excited we were at home. And we weren't even involved in the level you were. So now we're talking about the 2016 team. You said that 31, we need to cut it down to 12.
Right.
And you found out that you just lost one last night.
A good one.
Yeah, because of surgery. So where do you go from here to try to get to that 12? And are there any secrets about who's definitely going to be in there?
No secrets, but what we decided to do is not have a tryout camp. I mean, that's a
Okay.
little insulting to the players of that magnitude.
I can understand that.
So what we said to each of them is, look, we're going to watch this season. We know you, each one of you intimately. We want to gauge where you are physically, the kind of season you have. We'll pick the team after the regular season is over in the playoffs.
Okay.
So the last few days of June, probably around June 27th or 28th, we'll announce who the 12 are.
Okay.
So we have the remaining time to continue to
Yes.
analyze and then make a final decision. And the bottom line is, it's not an all-star team. We want to put the best 12 we can put on the
You
floor,
want to win.
who will complement one another and have a real team. And that's the way
That's
we've
good.
always judged this. So we have time between now and the end of June.
Yeah.
We'll go to camp in mid-July.
Okay.
We'll be in camp for a week, and then we'll play games called friendly games against competition, like China and so forth. But we'll play in San Francisco and LA and Chicago and Las Vegas and Houston, and then fly to Rio. So come July 15th, I'll be gone a month, but it's an exciting month.
Oh, most definitely. And I think that the first game for the Olympics for us will be about August 6th.
I think that's correct.
Oh,
So
that's so exciting.
looking forward to it.
The question, Kobe has come out and he said that he's not going to be on the Olympic team. He doesn't want to take that spot. He wants to give it to someone younger. Do you think there's any wiggle room there that he'll be some part of the Olympic team, whether it's a player, a coach, a mentor, companion?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that, and this might surprise you a little bit, but there's so much focus on everyone's job, and you need to keep distractions out of the whole thing.
I can understand that.
And Kobe being such a magnet, for so much, that he knows that. He knows that would cause a little bit of consternation, a little bit of confusion.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah, so, obviously he's welcome at any time, at any place. We appreciate and respect his contribution, but I don't think we'll see Kobe at the Olympics.
Okay, all right. Well then, Coach K, we know he's going to be at the Olympics.
Right.
He's the coach.
I sure hope so.
Right? He's in Sweet 16 right now with Duke. But there's been some concerns about how busy he is, the stress level he's under. Any problems, any concerns that you have about him being with the team this summer or continuing on?
Well, for certain, this is his last Olympics.
It is going to be.
We made that decision that he's finished in Rio. Okay. He's had a tremendous run.
Yes,
and,
yes.
He has an opportunity here to get 3 gold medals, which is fantastic. But he's helped me so much in developing our program. And when we first met to talk about the possibility of him being our coach, we talked about putting infrastructure in place that would, give us a future going beyond our time, whatever our time was. And I think we've done that.
Oh, yeah.
So, job well done in that sense. And I hope we can finish strong in Rio with his last, coaching opportunity. And I made the decision to pick the next coach before Rio, rather than having another distraction, like who's going to be your next coach. Well, I don't want to think about that at that moment. We have a focus on winning in Rio. So the best way to have dealt with it is, I think, the way we did, which is let's pick him. And it was Popovich at San Antonio, and those two coaches are so similar in so many ways. Military backgrounds, great leaders. One is a Hall of Fame coach. One will be a Hall of Fame coach. And they were so similar, and they had never met.
Oh, really?
It was really kind of an interesting situation. But Pop pulled one on me. He says, "Look, I'll do it. I'll do it for 2020, but with one condition." I said, "What's that?" He says, "You." He says, "You need to stay," because I thought I'd be finished in 16 also in Rio. But that was an easy decision for me. God willing, if my health is good, I'll be there because I said I would.
Again, the common denominator, right? You. So do you think 2020 will be your last hurrah with the Olympics?
I can't go on forever. So
I think there's a lot of people that wish you would.
Well, no one ever has been able to figure that one out. So 2020 will be good enough.
Okay, so the Olympics, the last question I have for you about the Olympics. The Valley, Arizona, we attract so many high quality athletes here, pros, amateurs. Is there anybody out in our state or in the Valley that you think we should keep our eyes on when it comes to Olympic athletes? Because I know you're involved with basketball, obviously. Do you have the pulse on any other Olympic athletes here?
Well, I can't tell you that I know of any specific, young people who are coming through the pipeline in the various sports. I couldn't tell you that. The best we can do is in the area of basketball, is that we have a great handle on the top players in the country.
Yes.
Wherever they come from. And so when you have a pretty good read on 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, and then you monitor them.
Right.
You see how they develop and where they go and their circumstances. And I think we have a good system, and look, as we grow as a state and as a community, the population base continues to grow. There's more and more chance that you're going to end up with future Olympians. So don't know their names yet, but I'm sure they're coming.
Well, if there's anybody that's going to know about him, it's you. And I was talking to Ron Wolfley the other day, former Arizona Cardinal, and he's over at Arizona Sports now. And he referred to you as the godfather of Arizona sports. And we've heard that term from other people as well. And it seems, listening to the history, listening to the stories, I would say that it's very fitting. How does that make you feel when somebody calls you the godfather of Arizona sports?
Well, it makes me feel old. How's that?
No.
I mean, I am a grandfather to 13, so I can relate to that. No,
Wait a minute,
I
did
take
you say
it as
13?
13.
Wow.
I take that as a compliment.
As you
and
should.
I appreciate that a great deal. But you know, when you have the opportunity, like I did, at a very young age to make a mark, and then have enough success to stay in it and keep going, and continue to give back and be part of the industry that you're involved in. And in my case, it was a mom and pop industry when I joined the NBA, and I was part of the growth to where it's become a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I have served in every capacity. You know, I've scouted, I've managed, I've coached, I've owned. And on league matters, I've served in every capacity. From serving on every committee and chairing every committee and chairman of the board of the NBA. And so all of the things that I've done have kept me involved in this whole very public, you know, industry. And so if you can survive it, I guess you have an opportunity to get a moniker like Godfather.
Right.
So I take it for what it's worth, and I appreciate it.
Well, it's worth a lot. You're worth a lot to Arizona.
Thank you.
The business leaders of Arizona have come out and they've said, look, the single most important thing that Arizona and Governor Ducey need to really focus on are the schools here and the education. And I know that's really important to you, listening to what you've said today. And you're involved in so many organizations, the Boys and Girls Club, GCU, like you brought up. There's another group called Ambassadors of Compassion. And can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you're very involved in that, and how business leaders in Arizona can help in that.
Well, let's talk about the overall issue in our state. Because I've been very involved in economic development and trying to attract companies to come here.
Wait a minute, is there anything you haven't been involved with?
Oh, I'm sure there is, but in this particular case, as we talk about growing the community, creating jobs, you know, we were ranked really down the list before I was asked at that time by Governor Brewer to help her take a good look at the Department of Commerce. And what we did is we blew it up and we created the Arizona Commerce Authority. And through incentives given to us by the legislature, which we had to fight for and sell, and just the sheer doggedness of trying to go out and bring companies here, we moved all the way up into the top 5 or 7 states in the country as an attractive place to do business.
Right.
They have their own criteria for what is really important to them. Education is a big part of that.
Yes, it is.
And we have been near the bottom educationally in our state for
not the bottom, very close.
Very.
Yes.
For a long time. And so I can't say enough about the need to raise that bar, because we need to be a leader. We can't be one of the has-beens educationally. No. And right now we're struggling in that sense. So the programs that can help assist, you know, everything takes money.
Yes, it does.
And so there needs to be a focus on investing in the future of Arizona through education.
Absolutely.
And it's more than just K-12. As we go forward, we need to have a lot of high tech. We need to be a vibrant community that attracts the kind of companies that are high-paying jobs.
Yes.
And that's another challenge. But educationally, again, when we look at what we have in our community and the needs we have with these young kids, this program is such an important program because it helps empower these young kids to lift themselves out of the circumstances they're in. Not by design, but they happen to come from, you know, maybe below average income families. You know, we have our own crime issues. We have circumstances that are not really conducive to
success.
And you know, this program, through the great leadership that we have, is really helping young kids come out of that, come out of poverty, come out of an attitude of, you know, I have no place to go. I have no future.
I don't even have a hope for a future.
Right. And so when you give young people who are in that kind of a circumstance a spirit of hope, and they can see some light at the end of the tunnel, then you have something really positive to work with. And so, you know, that's why I'm so involved in so many programs to help the needy, the poor, help people raise themselves out of the ashes. You know, that's the spirit of Phoenix. And this program is one that has, by the results, indicate that this is as good as it gets in terms of available programs to help the community, help these young kids have a chance in life.
And it's a perfect opportunity for business leaders, those that want to raise the bar and help ensure that we have a good workforce, to come in and to help with Ambassadors of Compassion, to help those children, give them hope, give them a future. And we're talking about high school kids, you know, not just 5-year-olds, but high school kids. And Ambassadors of Compassion, they monitor those kids and they help them. They just don't go, hi, nice to see you, work with you for 10 days, and then they leave them.
Well, the business community must get behind the program because it takes some money to make it work. And the Ambassadors of Compassion program, with the proper support, has already shown that the results are there, that they can make a difference, you know, in the community. And, you know, there's all kinds of statistics to indicate, you know, if kids stay in school, if kids are not, you know, dropping out of school, the impact on the community is enormous financially. So stay in school, get yourself prepared, have a real shot in life. That kind of an investment from the business community is about as good as that gets, because it's going to require that.
Well, Jerry, thank you so much for all your insight.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much for helping Arizona, helping the Valley, helping our kids here, and just raising the bar in everything you do. I mean, we're so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Nice being with you.
Thank you.